let's talk about mistakes I've made in relationships as someone with a dismissive avoidant attachment style. Family, welcome and welcome back to my channel. I'm Eleanor and this is Dismissible Me, where I speak only about dismissive avoidant attachment from the perspective of someone with a dismissive avoidant attachment style. Please like, share, and subscribe. Check the playlist. Find me on Instagram. All of my information is down below in the description box. And getting right into today's video, here's a list of 10 mistakes I've made in relationships having a dismissive avoidant attachment style. And the first thing that I put on this list was flaw finding. And I had somebody recently in the comment section ask me if I've ever ended a relationship due to flaw finding. And the answer to that is no, I've never ended a relationship due to flaw finding. But it is something that I wish I was more self-aware of sooner, as this would have just brought me to where I am now, which is let's stop flaw finding and focus more on red flags and moving according to the red flags. The thinking that there was a need to hyper focus on someone's imperfections to justify my emotional distance or my wanting to emotionally distance myself. That lack of self-awareness about this one thing, once I opened my eyes to it, it did make me become a better communicator. And I don't like this. This isn't working for me. I need you to change this. This was one of the things, but especially for me when I'm talking first, second, third dates, this is a time where I'm super looking for red flags and flaw finding. And what I really just should have been doing is if I didn't like them, I should have just stopped dating them. There's no need to go on date 2. No need to do date 3 if I'm still on the fence after date 2. You know what I mean? So let's just leave that alone. Flaw finding, major mistake that I made. Another mistake I've made is emotional withholding. So keeping my true thoughts and feelings to myself, and, I can see somebody feeling very shut out from that behavior. That's been a major mistake. And to go along with the emotional withholding, there's also a level of not just emotional withholding, but also the lack of physical intimacy. And I'm not talking about laying up with people. I'm not very concerned with that. But just holding hands or hugging, I know that that's something that I've really struggled with. And there was a point in time where I was just unwilling to compromise on that. So the emotional withholding, not showing up in an affectionate way. Another mistake I have made is going cold after vulnerability. And this could be after you've decided to be vulnerable with me, or after I've decided or felt pressure to be vulnerable with you. I may need some time to myself. I may pull away. I may start really thinking about where things are going and trying to predict the future and start letting people go. But that's also a mistake that I've made too, when really I should have just not opened myself up until I was truly ready to be there or go there with this particular person or that particular person. And going along with the going cold after vulnerability, withdrawing. And I'm not saying that I shouldn't have taken time to myself. You're not going to hear me say that over here. But what I am going to say is the way in which I was withdrawing from people was not acceptable. Just disappearing or just cutting ties and then popping back up without any clear communication is bad form. So that is something that was a mistake that I was making. And not so much ghosting. If I ghosted you, something really offensive happened. You didn't get ghosted for no reason. You didn't get ghosted because I just felt uncomfortable. A major offense was made. But mainly about withdrawing or just needing a lot of time to myself or not answering the phone the way that I used to. A change in my behavior, a change in the cadence of how I respond to you, a change in how often I'm wanting to see you. That's a thing that I definitely was struggling with, and how to communicate my needs. Not prioritizing my romantic relationships was another mistake that I was making. And for me, I'm not a person that dates often. Dating in general is not a priority. So I can go many years without dating someone. So being in a relationship and having that mindset of, well, I was alone for 5 years, 6 years, and I wasn't worried about dating. Why am I putting so much effort into the situation, or why am I staying in a situation that is causing me a lot of discomfort or stress when I could just be by myself and it's much simpler. I'm much happier and I don't have all this stress that seems very unnecessary to me at the time. And then it's also, on top of not prioritizing my romantic relationships, it's also downplaying the relationship when I'm in it and then after it's done. Because it's always not that serious, you know? It's always, oh, well, that's just my friend. Because, we're not putting titles on anything. It's always, well, it only lasted so long. It wasn't forever. It wasn't, 2 years. It wasn't 3 years. It wasn't, a year. It's not a big deal. So downplaying the relationship, not prioritizing it, not making it a big deal. Those are things that were definitely mistakes, like making somebody feel like they're a second-class citizen or like a character in the background of their own relationship, that's not nice, so that not really being aware of how selfish I can be, problematic. So downplaying the relationship and not prioritizing the relationships as well. And then there's especially, and this is not just in romantic relationships, this is for the few anxious people that came my way and they didn't last very long, friendship or romantic wise. And this is more of a friendship thing. But for the one, rejecting reassurance. And I'm not talking about your reassurance to me, because I'm not asking for reassurance. You may be asking me for reassurance, and I'm shutting that down completely. If I feel like you're asking me for reassurance and you're becoming codependent and I'm not interested in you being dependent on me, I'm going to shut that reassurance right on down. If I feel like you're trying to manipulate me because you need a pick me up, or you're trying to elicit a very specific response out of me, or I feel like you're just being overly clingy and needy, I'm going to act indifferent towards your need for reassurance. And I do know that sounds terrible. I do know that is, again, bad form, but that's another mistake that I've made. And there's been plenty of times where I can give reassurance, but there have also been moments where I could feel that this person needed reassurance, but I just didn't have it in the tank, family. I just did not. And so I gave them a very neutral response or no response at all. I'm not a person that's going to completely go, what are you talking about? That's so stupid. Like, I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to put that much energy into it. But giving you a neutral response, absolutely. Ignoring what you just said, like I didn't hear it because I just don't have the capacity to deal with whatever it is that you have going on. I need you to handle it. That's absolutely something that I've done. And that was a mistake. Like, there's no reason for me to be completely dismissing your attempts to gain comfort or support from me. And again, I did it for various reasons. There are plenty of times where I can be very reassuring and supportive. But there are also times where I'm just moody and I'm not feeling it. And so if I'm not feeling it, I'm not going to fake it. And that's just that. Another mistake that I have made, and I've mentioned this in several videos, is keeping an emotional exit plan. I am always 1 foot, if not 1.5 size 11s out the door. So, and for me, that means keeping this emotional distance, keeping this or these walls up, and just not allowing somebody in. So for me, because I always know that I can leave, and that if I am going to leave, I want to leave very quickly, smoothly, easily, with as little damage as possible. I always have that exit plan. I always have that, I always have a reason to be emotionally distant and emotionally unavailable on some level with this exit strategy that I always keep in the back of my mind. And it's not just like, it's not just flaw finding. It's also like when I start dating somebody, there's automatically a timer that starts. Like, I'm a big Saw fan. Think about at the beginning of a challenge. Yep, I gave you the tape, so I told you what my boundaries are, blah, 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 right? And then you get in the game and you press play, and that ticker, that little cheap ass $5 Dollar General timer that's on these elaborate traps, that's gone off. You don't even know that there's a timer. You don't even know that I'm timing this. And that if things aren't progressing in a way that I like in a certain amount of time, I'm just gone. I'm no longer investing. I'm not even going to tell you this. And I guess that's a conversation. That's a whole nother video. If you want to see me elaborate on that, I will drop a timer emoji down below, or an hourglass. Another mistake, and I feel like I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the video with the going cold and emotional withholding, is shutting down affection. Very similar to rejecting reassurance. If I feel like somebody's being overly clingy with being too physically close to me, oh, you're holding my hand too much, you're trying to kiss me too much, you're coming on a little strong, absolutely going to shut that down too. Not feeling it, don't like it. And when I'm saying I'm shutting it down, I'm not even giving you an explanation. I'm just shutting it down. There's been plenty of times, and 9 times out of 10, because it makes me very uncomfortable, I'm going to be upfront about the fact that I don't want you to do X, Y, and Z. That physical touch and being super close to me, standing too close to me, I shouldn't be able to feel your breath on me, is a real issue. So, I'm not going to not tell you about these physical boundaries. So when you are being overly affectionate, I'm just going to shut it down, because to me, I've already had the conversation, so there's not a need to have another one. And I do see how that can be confusing to someone, especially if they really weren't paying attention, or they thought my boundaries were a joke, or if they're really not used to somebody operating in this way. How that can be alarming. There's also avoiding labels and defining the relationship, which is number 10 on my list. Avoiding the labels, not wanting to put a label on anything, not wanting to define anything, leaving things up in the air, going with the flow, which I have a whole video on. And that simply just reinforces the emotional distance. If there's no label, if I haven't defined anything, if we don't even have a conversation that doesn't include labels, okay, that doesn't define what the heck is going on here, I'm not held to any standard. And I can leave, back to that, keeping an emotional exit plan, and I can leave at any time. There's nothing holding me here. There's no reason for me to stay in a place where I don't need to be here. If I don't define this, if I don't have a label on this, I don't have to explain myself because everything is light. It's surface level. We're going to say friends, but it's really associates. I think of you as an associate because that's where we're at. We don't know anything about each other. It's all very surface level. So 10 mistakes I've made: flaw finding, emotional withholding, going cold after vulnerability, withdrawing or ghosting, not prioritizing my romantic relationships, downplaying the relationship while in it and even after, rejecting reassurance, giving reassurance, I should say, keeping an emotional exit plan at all times, shutting down affection, avoiding labels and defining the relationship. And another thing to go along with avoiding labels and defining the relationship is procrastinating on relationship milestones. Okay? Don't even talk to me about a 6-month anniversary. Get a grip. Because even if we get to that 1 year, I'm going to be feeling a certain type of way, like it's just another day, right? Meeting each other's families. I'm going to procrastinate on that. Definitely going to drag my feet. Discussions about the future. Moving in. I absolutely, the idea of moving in, and that's another thing. Drop a house emoji if you want me to talk about moving in and the fear of moving in with somebody. That is absolutely terrifying because I value my personal space. Moving in and giving all of that up, why don't I just go to the county jail if that's what we're doing? So yeah, that procrastinating on relationship milestones, not wanting to acknowledge relationship milestones, wanting to maintain my independence and autonomy when not in your immediate presence. So having my own place, having my own space, having my own friends, things like that. That's also another mistake that I've made. Family, that is the video that I have for you today. Sorry that I missed a video yesterday. I will be back tomorrow with another one. Please like, share, and subscribe. Find me on Instagram. You can schedule a one-on-one with me. My website is down below in the description box. Let me know your attachment style and where you are watching from. Drop your flags down below. Thank you for giving me your time. And family, I will be tapping in with you very soon. Keep it real.